My name is Perry Trimper. I am the Minister of Service NL. I'm the sort of the new Minister of Service NL, so I'm inheriting a lot of progress and a lot of amazing work that's gone on. I would like to welcome Patricia Hines-Coates. She's the National President of Mothers Against Drunk Driving Canada, and I'd like to thank her for joining me here today on this very special day.
Thank you.
The consequences of impaired driving have devastating and far-reaching effects for families and communities across our province. With this in mind, I am here to announce that the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador is taking action to make our highways safer for everyone by advancing amendments to the Highway Traffic Act. The changes we are announcing today will deter impaired driving, prevent impaired drivers from committing repeat offenses, and help the young people of our province develop sober driving habits. Impaired driving is the leading criminal cause of the leading criminal cause of death in our country, and on average, 4 people are killed every day in impaired driving crashes in Canada. Nearly 60% of motor vehicle crash deaths are related to impaired driving. Most recently, we've learned from Statistics Canada that this capital region has the highest impaired driving rates of any metropolitan area in the entire country. It is time for us to change the story on impaired driving in Newfoundland and Labrador. Driving is a privilege, not a right. Those who choose to abuse this privilege by driving while under the influence of alcohol will face tougher consequences once these amendments come into force. Currently, the province's vehicle impoundment program does not apply to impaired driving offenses. With these changes, we will begin impounding vehicles at roadside for drivers with a blood alcohol content above the legal limit, or when they fail or refuse to provide a breath sample. This change will bring our province in line with most other provinces and territories. Currently, drivers who are serving a license suspension for impaired driving can volunteer to participate in an ignition interlock program. However, today, we are proposing to establish a mandatory ignition interlock program as a condition for reinstatement of a driver's license at the end of the suspension period. The terms for the mandatory interlock program will be 1 year for a first conviction, 3 years for a second conviction within 10 years, and 5 years for a third or subsequent conviction within 10 years. Recognizing that young drivers have higher impaired driving rates than any other group, we are taking measures to ensure that young people have ample opportunity to develop safe and sober driving habits. That is why we are amending the Highway Traffic Act to establish zero tolerance for alcohol consumption for drivers less than 22 years of age. While this requirement already exists under the Graduated Driver Licensing Program, most people complete this program by the age of 18, before they are legally permitted to drink. With this amendment, young drivers will have additional time to develop the habit of separating driving from the use of alcohol. It is our hope that this requirement will help establish a new generation of drivers who never drink and drive. With the help of the Department of Education and Early Childhood Development and the Department of Advanced Education, Skills and Labor, we will reach out to young people across the province to ensure they are informed of these new rules. We will also be working with the Newfoundland Labrador Liquor Corporation to raise awareness for all drivers through their social responsibility programs. At this time, I'd like to recognize the Honourable Minister Eddie Joyce, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Environment. I don't believe he's in the room, but I did want to mention his name because it was under his leadership that during the time he was Minister of Service NL that the groundwork for the legislation we are announcing today was laid. I'd also like to thank Patricia Hines-Coates for her dedication to this cause. I was just thinking, I was mentioning to her that as the campaign rolled out across the province last year, I was with my colleague from Lab West, Graham Leto, Lisa Dempster, and Randy Edmonds, along with the MP for Labrador. I think it was one of the first meetings of MAD with our new administration when they put forward to us these asks, which we're very proud to be here today to say, we've heard you and we're listening. Frankly, it is your advocacy work on the issue of impaired driving that began, I guess, back in 2013, when unfortunately your stepson Nicholas was killed by an impaired driver. So it's along with Patricia's colleagues and the 12 chapters and community leaders across this province, she has become a tireless advocate for the changes we are announcing today. With these changes, we are sending a message that the time has come to end impaired driving in Newfoundland and Labrador. But government cannot solve this most difficult problem on its own. Today's announcement is a result of successful collaboration between our government, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and community leaders across the province who have advocated for tougher penalties for impaired driving. It is clear that societal change is necessary if we are to be truly successful. And this is a responsibility for every citizen in this province. Parents, educators, community leaders, business owners, and the general public all have a role to play. Together, we must take a stand against impaired driving so that one day we can look back and we can say that the 2nd of March, 2017 was truly a turning point in the story of impaired driving in Newfoundland and Labrador. I'd like to thank you very much. Now I'd like to invite Patricia to have a few remarks.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of MAD Canada, our chapters and community leaders here in Newfoundland and Labrador, and the victims and survivors, of impaired driving, I want to take this opportunity to thank the government of Newfoundland and Labrador, especially Minister Trimper, his predecessor, of course, Minister Joyce, Mark Carolan, and all the members we've met with recently. Several of us from MAD Canada, our Newfoundland and Labrador chapter volunteers, met with members of the government this past May to speak with them about the dangers and the effects of impaired driving. We wanted to make changes. We wanted our government to make stiffer laws. Their commitment to reducing impaired driving was very evident then, and it is even more evident today as they make this fantastic announcement. Impaired driving is the leading cause of death amongst young people and everyone else in Canada. It kills hundreds of people every day and injures thousands more. But despite its prevalence, no one ever thinks it's going to happen to them. No one ever believes that they're going to get that phone call or that knock on the door that tells them that their loved one may never come home or is injured in an impairment-related crash. I know that feeling oh too well. In August 2013, my stepson, Nicholas Coates, was killed by an impaired driver. It was a beautiful sunny day just like any other day. My husband had gotten up and gone to work. Our youngest son, Anthony, he was gone camping with his friends. Amanda, our eldest daughter, she had planned a day off with me. We were running away for the day. And according to Elizabeth, Nicholas's fiancée, he had jumped on his motorcycle and headed off to work. None of us realized that that was the day that our lives would change forever. Shortly before 12 o'clock that day, I received a phone call that Nicholas had been in a crash. It wasn't until much later that day that we found out that in actual fact, Nicholas, on his motorcycle, was struck by an impaired driver in a pickup truck. By the time I got to the hospital that day, I found my husband slumped on the floor, and his head was buried deep within his hands, and he shook as he explained to me what became the last visual memory of his little boy alive. He said that Nicholas had just been rushed past him on a gurney, surrounded by doctors and nurses. The only thing left in the hallway was a trail of blood. That memory still haunts him to this very day. I don't remember much after that. I just remember standing about 4:55 in a hallway full of friends and family belonging to Nicholas, and silence overtook the area. And all I remember is a doctor and minister standing in front of me saying how sorry they were for our loss. There was nothing else they could do. And the horrors of the screams from Nicholas's loved ones echoed throughout the hall. Nicholas was a son. He was my stepson. He was a brother, an uncle, a fiancé, and a very, very loyal friend. He was kind-hearted, hardworking. He was only 27 years old. He had just landed his dream job as a civil engineer here in St. John's, Newfoundland. His loss was completely senseless. That's one of the hardest things to come to grips with. Nicholas died because someone made that choice to get into their vehicle after they were drinking. And because of that choice, Nicholas is not here today. It was a senseless and preventable tragedy, and it's something that continues to happen to families after families in our province and in our country. Impaired driving is a serious crime, and it requires serious deterrence. The measures being introduced here today are important. They are very effective, and they will help save the lives of many people and prevent injuries. Zero BAC requirements for young drivers have been shown to reduce the alcohol-related crashes among young people, and that is extremely crucial. Did you know that the leading cause of death of our teens and young adults in Canada are road crashes, and over 50% of them have alcohol involved in their systems? A zero BAC requirement encourages the separation of drinking from driving entirely, and it helps our young drivers gain the skills and experience to stay safe on our roadways. Vehicle impoundment is another effective tool, not only as a sanction for those who choose to drive while they're impaired, but also as a deterrent to prevent others from driving. You can either drive if you're not drive while you're impaired, we recommend, but if you drive and you're caught, which you will be, our RNC and our CMP are on our roadways every day. They will catch you, and it'll be up to you to pay the impoundment fee. It is up to you to pay for the tow. It's a very expensive endeavor, so please don't do it. Not only that, you could be risking somebody else's life. The alcohol ignition interlocks provide a means whereby offenders can regain the ability while ensuring public safety by preventing them from driving while impaired and keeping them insured and licensed while they're on our roadways. It helps offenders change their drinking and driving behaviors. The measures being proposed here today send a powerful message that impaired driving will not be tolerated, and those who choose to drive impaired will face strong and serious consequences. So for myself, for those here with me today, on behalf of MAG Canada, and for all those who have been impacted, we thank the government for its movement on this issue. We look forward to supporting the passage of this legislation and the implementation of these measures. Remember that working together, we can make a difference. That is why our many volunteers, our partnerships with our government, our MAJs, our RNC, our CMP officers, our partnership with the NLC, and many others is so important to us in this fight against impaired driving. We all have a goal, and that is to protect the lives of all Newfoundland and Labradorians while honoring the memories of our victims such as Corey Kenway, Rita and Clyde Hannaberry, Kobe Duffidays, Roger Linehan, Mabel Kerr, Matthew Churchill, Nicholas Coates, and all the other victims of impaired driving. It only takes a moment to end a lifetime of moments. Please remember that. Thank you.